we saw this bill go through the House, get it voted on 215, 214, basically on party lines. It is now in the Senate, where, as we were talking about in our previous live stream, there's quite a few different Republican senators that seem to be in different places with this. Some of them are opposed because they think that there's actually too many cuts, and there are also some who are opposed because there's not enough cuts. And so, for whatever reason, the Republicans in the Senate are not really seeming to come to a consensus right now. So there is talk that this bill might be reshaped, it might be rewritten, it might just be dead on arrival. There's a lot of just uncertainty right now. So from everything that you've been seeing, though, let's kind of just talk about like first what this bill is cutting.
Yeah, and
So yeah, let's talk about that first.
Desmond, I'll say as somebody who has a degree in political science and a law degree, I can tell you with utmost certainty, I don't know what's going on. This is completely new stuff that's happening, and this summer is being nicknamed Ping Pong Summer. And
Hmm.
that's because the House put forward their budget bill. And the Senate, there's already senators in disagreement with a lot of these policies, Republican senators at that.
Yeah.
And this is really new territory because Republicans have always had their strength in unity. So
Yeah.
this is really fascinating considering they control the entire government
Right.
and they can't agree on this. So this is good. This is good. What's going to happen now is the Senate's in recess right now. Next week they come back and then they need to start drafting what their bill is going to be
Yeah.
because they want to get it onto their floor by the end of June and then vote
Right.
it on before July 4th. So what's going to happen is if they're able to meet that deadline, which I really don't think they will, they're going to send it back to the House with it's going to be a very different bill.
Yeah.
And the House is going to try to probably put their things back in, send it back over to the Senate. And I don't know how often or how long it's going to go back and forth between each other for this volley. But there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of other variables at play. Uh,
Yeah.
there's the debt limit that needs to be raised. There's the debt ceiling. There's the farm bill is coming up for expiration at the end of September. I mean, they could very well just renew it again and again and again. We're not in any rush to get a farm bill through. We can talk about that in a bit, but that's also coming up. And then ultimately, the 2026 midterms are coming up as well. So
Yeah.
the the bill has over $1 trillion in cuts to SNAP, Medicaid, and now Medicare is getting affected as well. So Republicans are smart enough to know they don't want to be anywhere near the bill when the midterms come around.
Right.
That's where we are in terms of timeline.
Yeah, so there are a lot of, I guess, there are a lot of Republicans in the House that are in some of these more purple districts. There's been a lot of redistricting happening over the last couple cycles here, and they barely won some of these seats in the last elections, in the 2024 election cycle, at some of the slimmest of margins. So they are in highly contested races, and they know that if these bills are cutting too much into social programs like SNAP, like Medicare, like Medicaid, they're going to get absolutely crushed. So this bill, in some ways, is actually asking them to walk the plank and just essentially have their careers ended because they are going to be going along with Trump and like the plan right now to just gut all of these services. So they are trying to make sure that the cuts are kind of minimal. Meanwhile, the Republicans in the Senate they want more cuts. We had Rand Paul on Fox News saying that this was too like fiscally irresponsible, that there wasn't enough cuts, and if there were not more cuts, then he would not get involved. He would not sign off on it. Senators Mike Lee in Utah and Rick Scott in Florida said the exact same thing. So I actually have no idea. There really is no understanding who's going to fold, if anyone's going to fold. I mean, this thing could just die. I don't want to give people too much hope here because that would be, I think, a mistake. But the chance is out there. I think more so there seems to be more hope now than there was previously. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, there absolutely is a lot more hope. The bill that came out of the House is really important, though, to keep in mind. Even if it dies, even if it is changed completely, we cannot forget what the House Republicans were willing to do and voted on. Some of them
Yes.
voted on this multiple times through the respective committees. That come 2026 midterms, we cannot forget what happened here. And unfortunately, a lot of voters, we just have short-term memory. I mean, we have a lot of things going on. I'm not jumping on or piling on voters, but like
Yeah.
something we're going to have to keep in mind. And also, like my representative, he's a Republican. As soon as he voted on this thing that seeks to cut like over $600 billion from Medicaid, he sent out an email to all the constituents on the listserv, like, Representative votes to protect Medicaid. There's nothing protecting Medicaid in this bill.
Right.
Removing upwards of 10 million people from the bill for Medicaid does not help people. So there's so much rhetoric we can dive into about how they're trying to obfuscate everything, and gaslight is going to try to help them put up a shield come 2026. But we really need to be we need to remind ourselves every single day what they tried to do. We need to remember this. We need to call them every day, weekly,
Yeah.
regular visit. Just be like, hey, we remember. We remember what you did. We remember what you tried to do, and we won't forget. And
Yeah.
and Desmond, also, when you said walking the plank, like that's the real crazy issue here, because so many people call like the MAGA community as a cult, and this really is showing that, because they can either lose, they can either potentially lose by getting primaried by somebody the president would pick to run against them if they voted against it,
Right.
or they can lose by voting for the thing and then getting either primaried or lose in their respective districts come midterm elections. So it's really weird.
Yeah, and the right is obviously trying to like spin this right now is that they're just cutting, like waste, fraud, and abuse. But the numbers don't pan out in that way, any shape or form. The number that they are trying to cut, we talk about $700 billion to Medicaid, $500 billion to Medicare. I think it's 267 billion is the number to SNAP benefits. Like we are again. I think sometimes it gets a little. There's like a lack of humanity when we just talk about the numbers like this. These are people's healthcare. This is people's, food that we were trying to talk about here. And again, the most vulnerable people in our society, people who, if you are on Medicaid, you are among some of the poorest people in America. If you are on SNAP, you are some of the most poorest people in America. And this is your access to go to the doctor. This is your access to be able to go to the emergency room without leaving with some thousands and thousands of dollar bill. Your ability to go to the grocery store and buy some food. These are, like our seniors who
Mm-hmm.
would be in abject poverty without access to Medicare. And now they're also like, this is, besides the fact that we'll talk about this a little bit later, you have Elon Musk making it hard for people to get Social Security right now by firing half of the staff at the Social Security office. So this is an attack on all ends on the most vulnerable people in our society. And I have no stomach for it. I mean, seriously, anyone who tries to justify this, and I see how the Republicans try to justify this. I have people, right-wing trolls constantly coming into comment sections on our YouTube videos, for instance, saying like, "Oh, they're just taking away all the fraud, and they're just making sure that illegals don't get these benefits, so on and so forth." But let me just tell you, all of that billionaire-fueled propaganda is just absolute nonsense. That is not what this bill does. This bill is trying to make it so that the most vulnerable people in our society have less of a safety net, and so they can privatize these things. They want to destroy Medicare and Medicaid so that they can have a more privatized healthcare industry. That, I think, to me, that's what it seems to be the end goal here.
You're spot on about that. And the way they are seeking to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse is actually to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse by eliminating the programs entirely.
Yeah.
And then you won't have any waste, fraud, and abuse to worry about. One of the talking points they have about how undocumented immigrants are receiving federal benefits is laughable, because you need a social security number to get these benefits. You need to
Right.
be a permanent resident. You need to be a citizen to get these benefits. It's hard enough, if not impossible, for a documented immigrant to receive these benefits. They have like
Right.
5-year restrictions, all these bars ahead of them. So for somebody who is undocumented in this country illegally to put themselves before the very government that they are hiding from to get benefits.
There's no thought that goes into this. I mean, seriously though, there really isn't.
If you just got to think about these talking points, and you can just assess.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah, there's no logic here.